Good morning, campers, and welcome to Radio Camp Half-Blood. I'm B.
And I'm Zack.
And this week, we read Chapter 9 of Percy Jackson's Sea of Monsters. I have the worst family reunion ever.
I mean, to be fair, has there ever been a good family reunion? I mean, seriously, I've never gone to a good one.
I can't imagine that there's ever been a good family reunion, because I think once you get enough people who only have the thing in common is that they are related, the chances of everybody getting along becomes diminishingly small the more people.
I give it like a 2% chance by the end of it, especially if you plan a trip, like, let's say to a theme park like Disney World or
God.
Disneyland. Like, it's all over.
I can't imagine having a reunion like that, like all my extended family, like in matching t-shirts, like, this is the family reunion. Like, I would scream.
And your mom's like, B's sister, can we, like, get a photo in front of the castle? Everyone huddle in.
That's definitely not what my mom sounds like. Also, I like how in this scenario, my mom calls my sister B's sister.
Well, I don't think I could use it on the show, but yeah.
This one over here, the twin and the other one, I don't remember her name.
Yeah, no, in this situation, apparently your mom sounds like David Lynch.
Yeah, for some reason, yeah, my mom's David Lynch.
This actually is a dream within a dream. And then you wake up, and then your mom's like, B, it's time to go to Disney World, and you just start screaming. So this chapter opens up, and it's like a super sneaky, like, spy movie, like they're trying to, like, creep around the Princess Andromeda with Tyson, the gigantic, loud, like, dumpster man, almost.
So, Annabeth at first wanted to just go alone because that makes sense. She has a cap of invisibility, but then they're like, all right, let's go together. And then Tyson kind of just doesn't want to go at all.
Yeah, it's like a weird dynamic again, and having, like, Tyson kind of is the comedic foil of this chapter, of most of this book is, it's like the idea of having, like, we have to have Tyson with us, but how can we be super sneaky when we have Tyson with us?
It's definitely sort of the, I don't know about the book version, but like the movie version of like Ron Weasley where like, oh, we gotta go and do this thing to sneakily find out something. And then, you know, he's like the anxious one who's like, no thanks, I'm good, I'll pass. Which is kind of funny because he's like the strongest, like, brute out of all of them. Like he could probably, you know, fight most of these people.
Are you talking about Ron Weasley or Tyson? Because Ron Weasley, like, gets his butt handed to him many a times.
No, Tyson. Oh God, no. Well, that's the thing is like Ron Weasley. He's like the trope of like being, you know, like the anxious friend who doesn't want to like get involved or anything like that. But the funny thing about Tyson is like he's also anxious to like get into any sort of altercation, but he's like this enormous behemoth Cyclops dude who could like totally take on all of these people, but he doesn't want to like actually fight people.
Yeah, there's like some really fun dynamics with that, especially when I was thinking about this was the scene in Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, when they're in the Mines of Moria and like don't make a sound and they accidentally hit the piece of armor and it falls down the gigantic well and it's just the loudest joke in the world.
Fool of a duke.
And then they awaken the Balrog.
That's sort of what they're doing here.
I mean, I didn't just recently rewatch Lord of the Rings, so that isn't on my mind.
I've got Lord of the Rings on my mind just because my hair is getting profoundly Frodo-y, because I need a haircut.
So they start sneaking through this cruise ship, and they start noticing, like, again, like the buffet lines, and like they're on the zombie cruise ship with people that, I guess the correct definition for a zombie is someone that doesn't have a mind of their own, because everyone's mesmerized.
Are these people dead? I have questions a little bit about. They're not actually dead, right? They're just sort of possessed by a spell.
No. There's two versions of zombies, because people forget about this. There's voodoo zombies, and then there's the undead zombie.
Yeah, so they're not actually dead. They're just sort of under a trance somehow.
So they're like the traditional like voodoo zombie.
Yeah.
They're just mesmerized.
Anywho, so they're following on the tails of Luke and the two, or like one of the dudes that they overheard him talking to.
Because as they have to hide into a place because someone's coming and they notice it's someone from the camp. I think his name's like, actually look it up, it's like Chris Rodriguez.
The way they talked about him made me feel like the way I would talk about a random kid from high school. Like, oh yeah, Chris Rodriguez, wasn't he in my math class? Like, he seemed familiar, sort of.
And Percy Jackson's like, I kind of know him. I mean, of course, Percy, you were only at camp for like, what, 4 days at most? Like, hey, wait a second, you're the guy. But the interesting dynamic, because I wanted to bring this up, is I find it fascinating that already we have the seeds of, like, civil war, almost, and having, two people are picking a side. There's Camp Half-Blood, and then there's Luke's side, and people are already going to Luke's side of the conflict of, hey, the gods are terrible and we want to fix this whole system.
We find out a little bit more about this in this chapter, a little bit about how you kind of presume, I think, in the beginning that more people at Camp Half-Blood are on Percy's side, but then you see this kid who's on this cruise ship, so clearly he's like in cahoots with Luke somehow. Then you kind of realize that the reason Luke is aware of all of Percy's happenings and his quest and all of the details about what's going on is because he has spies, quote unquote friends, still at the camp. So there are still people hanging around who aren't on Percy's side, who are like feigning interest in him or pretending that they're on his side just so they can get like information, like reconnaissance.
Which is really interesting because you don't really see that in kids' books where, there's like spies, but also there's like obviously like almost like a political ideology of like you're either for the gods or against them. And that's something that's really unique in the situation of Percy Jackson compared to Series of Unfortunate Events, Harry Potter, and many, many, many other ones. I think the closest that gets to this is His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. But then again, that is a huge book that I would recommend everyone to read, but I guess that's the closest that you get.
Yeah, I don't actually know the premise of that series.
The premise of... the problem is if I told you the premise of the series, it would actually spoil it. All I'm going to tell you about it is when the book came out, it was banned by the Catholic Church.
Okay, I kind of get what you're saying.
I actually would recommend you should read it because they're actually making it into an HBO show very soon. And I'm excited for it because they made The Golden Compass and it was a terrible adaptation because they scrubbed out what made The Golden Compass and His Dark Materials great. That's why I'm really interested to see Sea of Monsters or if they ever do another adaptation of Percy Jackson because you know what? Like we're getting like a new adaptation of The Last Airbender, which is really weird.
Yeah, considering past adaptations and their failings and shortcomings.
Like the interesting thing that I've found with Percy Jackson is, this idea of to a kid, like, oh yeah, they're just picking sides, but really they're picking the matter of the world as well as it's like turning on one's parents and committing like, is it fratricide? Pretty much. I don't know what the term is for killing one's parents off the top of my head right now.
Paternicide? I don't know.
Maternicide, I think, is for mothers?
Well, I said paternicide. Well, I guess that would be father.
But yeah, no, I'm just saying it's like the idea of it's like we're going to kill our parents.
Yeah, you get the sense of his like very specific like radicalized ideology as he's like talking about how so like basically they like are listening in on Luke and then this is when we find out that like Tyson has this sort of weird spooky talent of hearing people even if they're far away and then like replicating their voices through his mouth. It's kind of like Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost a little bit. Which
is really creepy, and now I'm imagining Whoopi Goldberg as a Cyclops now, and that's even creepier.
And Whoopi Goldberg as Tyson.
You know what? I'd actually watch that movie and just Whoopi Goldberg as a 60-something trying to like play a teenager or play like a preteen. Hey everybody, I'm kooky preteen Whoopi Goldberg.
Interesting casting choice. A male teenager, we cast Whoopi Goldberg.
You might remember me some such movies as Theodore Rex and The Sister Act.
And Sister Act 2. How many Sister Acts were there? At least 2. Possibly 3.
She did 1 and 2.
She did 1 and 2. She wasn't in the other ones.
I mean, to most kids, that's really creepy, especially like the idea of like something being mimicked, like perfectly. Like, I would freak out actually, because that's just really creepy.
Oh yeah, that kind of reminds me of in the Hunger Games, they have the Jabberjays that could like replicate people's voices, and that's like such a spooky scene. Like when they find out that they keep thinking that they hear their loved ones, but it's actually like these birds that are genetically engineered to be able to sound like people, which is disturbing. It's kind of like not the most helpful tool, really, because in order for him to explain what he's overhearing, he just sort of broadcasts what's already being said, and that kind of makes them conspicuous in like that the people inside can overhear them talking, sort of. So this is why when he's like, oh, like projecting what Luke is saying. He says, "Yes, right outside." Like this is what Luke is saying because he's realizing that they're right outside listening in.
And also, Annabeth is like super creeped out about this more than everyone. She's like telling Tyson to just stop.
Oh yeah, she's really squicked out by the whole voice thing. Yeah, because he's not even just saying what they're saying. Like, his voice sounds exactly like he has the same gruffness as, like, whatever we'll find out later, the weird bear creature that he's talking to.
Yeah, he's talking to like Grizzly Adams' like cousin.
Yeah, the country bears.
Oh no, I'll get you next bear. I can't do a Christopher Walken impression, but it's like the really creepy Country Bears live action movie.
Oh yeah. Next time, bears.
I'll get you next time, bears.
I forgot he was in that movie until just now. Why was he in that movie? Why? Who was like, let's make a movie with bears and also Christopher Walken?
I don't know what's more lifelike, the bears or Christopher Walken.
I don't know.
So Luke overhears because, you know, there's like an echo, like a terrible, terrible echo. And like, oh yeah, so like he grabs them and they go into the new room with, it's like the mall area, or I guess what is it, like the captain's quarters?
The way that they describe it is it's very opulent and fancy, but then it's also spooky because there's like a giant sarcophagus with like ancient Greek like images carved into it, and it's a weird juxtaposition.
You know what in my brain when I think of this is like Percy Jackson's like, long ago when the pyramids were still young, ancient pharaohs played a game of terrible like sorcery and magic, and then Yu-Gi-Oh starts playing.
I love that they decide to describe like the change in aesthetic that Luke has gone under, where it's like he'd changed since last summer. Instead of Bermuda shorts and a t-shirt, he wore a button-down shirt, khaki pants, and leather loafers. His sandy hair, which used to be so unruly, was now clipped short. He looked like an evil male model showing off what the fashionable college-age villain was wearing to Harvard this year. That's such a great description.
I feel like the aesthetic that he has is if you touch him, he's like, don't touch me or my daddy will sue you.
Have you ever? Oh, you've never seen you've never seen Gilmore Girls, but there's like a lot of characters in that are like every obnoxious dude from like Ivy League school is like this.
Yes, and he kind of like talks like he's had a stroke, like almost. Is it like pompous? That's what I'm looking for, right? Or pumpernickel. No, but you know what I'm thinking of also with like Luke in this aesthetic is he has frosted tips. In my universe.
Oh god, I hope he doesn't have frosted tips. Well, like, what year is this? I feel like it's past the frosted tips age.
Yeah, but like he thinks it's still cool.
It's like very Aaron Carter.
He looks like, was it Lance Bass?
Yeah, Lance Bass. Oh man, what a dark time for hair, wasn't it? It was a really bad time.
I'm glad I never lived to see frosted tips, but now we have like the man bun and the rat tail and the mullet's coming back.
I'm really glad I never had crimped hair. I feel like watching Lizzie McGuire, I thought that was really cool. Like, I distinctly remember watching the Disney Channel and being like, wow, look at their cool crimped hair. And I'm glad I didn't really follow through on that aesthetic.
Same as with, like, teasing your hair.
The early 2000s and, like, late 90s were just, like, kind of a mess as far as aesthetic goes.
When this era is, so this is about 2005, 2006, the faux hawk is in style a little bit.
Oh yeah, faux hawk. My mom has a distinct dislike of the faux hawk. I remember her looking at my high school yearbook and being like, "Why do all these boys have this stupid haircut?"
Oh yeah, no, that's what's going on right now with like these kids. But yeah, so like Luke looks disgusting. Percy's just like, ew, why you look like this? Except there's still like the gigantic creepy coffin behind him, which is super creepy. But not only that, but he's got two bear compadres.
Two twin bear creature things that apparently have a very specific vendetta against the gods, much like Luke does.
Yeah, it's almost as if like they only have like the bare necessities on why they hate the gods.
Don't slander Baloo like this.
For all they know, Baloo could be their dad.
Yeah. It's kind of a spooky story. So they tell the story of what is it? Agrius and Aureus.
Yeah,
Aureus?
Agrius and Aureus. We might get these names wrong. I'm so sorry. We looked them up, but there's like different ways you pronounce them, so that's what we're calling them.
Whatever. No one knows how ancient Greek was pronounced. So they tell the story. Their mother ordered her to fall in love. She refused and ran to Artemis for help. Artemis let her become one of her maiden huntresses, but Aphrodite got her revenge. She bewitched the young woman into falling in love with a bear. Then Artemis found out. She abandoned the girl in disgust.
Yeah, it's very problematic and weird.
So she falls in love with a bear and has weird, creepy twins.
Except B, this is not an uncommon thing that happened. I know there's stories of, I actually want to say it's Perseus's conception is Zeus turned into a swan and flew down. Yes, yeah, I'm not trying to like the best, like for a kid-friendly show, I'm just going to say like Zeus as a swan hugged Perseus's mom or whoever and a baby came out.
Yep, that's exactly, and that's where we get storks from.
But it's like the weird thing of it's a trend of like horrific monsters being born through the pettiness of gods and dealing with mortal affairs.
Yeah, this whole description is really creepy. And even like, the sidebar that Luke has when he's telling the story, he says, typical of the gods, wouldn't you say? They fight with one another and the poor humans get caught in the middle. So that's like his thesis of why he hates them.
B, when I was reading this chapter, like I was looking at both sides of the coin because I actually read this chapter twice. And that is, it's actually interesting with this chapter because we can see both sides of the Greek gods. On Camp Half-Blood's side, you see the grandness and the mystique and just the sheer power of the gods, almost through like rose-tinted glasses. But then you look at it through Luke's side, the gods are so fallible, and like they'll do things such as this woman will fall in love with a bear and make these horrible creatures, and it shows like gods aren't as great beings as they should be.
He has a point in a lot of ways. Like, the way Luke goes about it, not recommended, but he does have a point that the gods do all sorts of weird, sort of petty things. I mean, even Percy's dad wasn't supposed to have Percy. Like, they're constantly sort of getting in fights with each other, causing, like, war and destruction and, like, all sorts of, like, complications in humans' lives because they don't, like, stick to the rules that they set out for themselves. Like, they're not actually infallible. They just have the power of gods, but, like, not any kind of sense of responsibility and how to use their power.
What makes a great villain be is when you can almost have empathy for them. Or, like, you can understand, like, in their crazy mind why they think this way. Such as, like, I think Thanos is a great character because he's a terrible, terrible monster of a villain. But there are times where you understand why he's the way he is.
Yeah. I like that they still show a little bit of, like, the justification for how Luke is acting. I think he's still terrible, and he obviously has all sorts of, like, inexcusable, like, violent behavior. But his, like, motivations and his, like, the thesis of why he believes this is that the gods are manipulative and unfair to humans. And that's also true.
It's almost like the way I was looking at this is kind of like chaos theory and like in Jurassic Park with Ian Malcolm when he says, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And that's kind of like Luke's thesis statement is you have all this power, but you use it for nothing. And you pretty much like your whole system is terrible. And it's always been like this. We need to like change the system and kind of like gut everything out, like destroy everything and then just build a better society for tomorrow. It's very, the way that Luke describes it, it's very like 1984 dystopian.
Yeah, he wants to sort of destroy all the gods. It's kind of a weird plan. I don't exactly understand how he plans to do that. I guess with Kronos somehow, but it seems like a lot of steps.
Kronos is their creator, so I guess it's like, I've created you guys, I can destroy you. But also it's the same idea of like, the gods technically destroyed Kronos.
Yeah, this is also when we find out that, we already knew this, that Luke was the one who poisoned the tree. Like, yeah. Shocking. Shock, amazing.
Oh my
I can't
gosh,
believe it.
really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, we knew that already.
Wow. I mean, it's like almost like obvious. It's like, yes, it was I who's poisoned the tree. And it would have been a funny joke. Like, Percy's like, yeah, we already knew that.
I'm not surprised that it was him. If it was anybody else, I would have been surprised. Like, if it was, someone else at Camp Half-Blood or something. But clearly they were trying to, like, frame Chiron. Yeah. If it actually was Chiron, like, that would have been actually shocking. But it's not. It was Luke. of course.
Yeah, and it's even the idea of, like, I love this interaction between Annabeth and Luke, because it's like Annabeth and Luke are pretty much like brother and well, I mean they're cousins, but like pretty much their dynamic was originally like a brother and sister type of relationship, and it's like you've tainted the memory of Thalia by poisoning the tree, and Luke is like, you're one to talk, you've brought in a Cyclops into the situation again, bringing up Cyclops racism.
Yeah, hinting something. So, wait, was Talia killed by a Cyclops? Is that what happened? Like, that's like what he seems to be implying, but there's no confirmation in this chapter.
Well, it's kind of like the idea of, it's like, I never thought you could sink so lower.
Yeah, as to bring a monster here or whatever. But then, of course, he like starts to mock Percy about like, oh, your dad claimed this monster brother of yours, but do you think he cares about you like any more than he cares about this horrible monstrosity?
I've always loved chapters like this in any book or any type of dialogue where the villain and the main characters are having kind of like the hostage negotiation, where one or the other is tied up or something, and all they do is talk, they don't fight, and you kind of understand both of their ideologies. Especially like in the situation, like Annabeth like completely like trashes Luke and about kind of like destroying like Talia's tree, especially like Talia not joining Luke, and he's like, oh yeah, you'd be totally wrong. If she was alive today, she would have joined us.
Yeah, that's kind of it's hard to say something like that, right? Like about someone who's dead, is to use them on your side. Like, oh, she would have agreed with me if she was alive. Like, well, she's not right now, so there's no way for you to prove that.
Yeah, no, it's kind of like, would you use that as like a martyr almost? Or is that almost like a false argument of having, well, if they were alive today, they would be part of my side or your side?
It's like a false equivalency to like summon like past behavior from someone that they knew. Like there's like no way to know whether or not.
Yeah, because
Talia
people
would've...
change after time. That's the huge thing. It's like, especially with time itself, is in 10 years or so, a person can be completely different.
And I'm not exactly sure what Luke's justification for thinking that Talia would be on his side, that she didn't like that the way that the gods treated them. Like, I think that that's like a fair assumption that a lot of half-bloods feel that way. A lot of half-bloods feel like they're manipulated by their parents to some extent.
Like, we can go back to Chris Rodriguez. The reason why he's joined Luke is because his parents never claimed him. He doesn't know who his parents are, which almost is worse. I feel like that's a worse fate than just being claimed, because it's like your parents don't care enough about you to even say, yeah, you're mine.
Yeah, you're just kind of like left, to twist in the wind, and no one knows like where you belong, and you have to be like in this weird crowded cabin because that's like where all the undesirables go.
Yeah, and I would imagine like every day, like he would look at his cabin mates and even the people like just around and be like, are we related?
Yeah, it's like that book, Are You My Mother? Oh, has someone ever made a version of that that's Percy Jackson? Or that's like...
Oh, that'd be so adorably sad.
Yeah, that would be really sad.
Rick Riordan, get on to write that kid's book right now. We'll talk. This is copyrighted Radio Camp Half-Blood now, so he has to pay us royalties.
Yep, that's how it works.
For his universe. So, like any typical James Bond villain, Luke decides not to kill them right there and then. He's going to feed them to the gigantic dragon, or Drakon.
Yeah, this is a very James Bond villain thing, right? Like, they're gonna hook them up to, like, a machine that, like, shoots lasers or something. It's very Dr. Evil.
It's the idea of, like, I'm going to explain my entire evil plan to you, except I'm going to, like, kill you in, like, a very sadistic, slow way. Obviously, you're going to have enough time to escape, though.
Yeah, and let me... use my spooky bear minions. This is also right before he sends them off to their doom. He, like, hints at some sort of thing about the prophecy, like, about Percy's 16th birthday, and we don't really know what that's all about.
Well, I do know what that's about, but I don't have to tell you a single thing.
Well, yeah, you know what that's about. I don't.
What do you think it is?
So Percy says, I knew Chiron had received a prophecy from the Oracle many years ago. I knew part of it was about me, but if I reached my 16th birthday, I didn't like the sound of that. Is this going to be like a Harry Potter thing where he has to be sacrificed or something in order for other people to live? I feel like it must be something like that. Like someone needs to die in order for other people to live to save the world, or... Yeah, that's kind of like the implication I got.
So what you're telling me, B, is Percy was a Horcrux all along?
Yeah, something like that. Like somehow Percy's death is instrumental in saving more people or something like that. Because that's like,
It's like the great conundrum of like, what's in the sugar bowl? What's a Horcrux? Like, there's a lot of like, what's in the box? Or is it a head?
Yeah, the big prophecy about his life, I guess, is meant to be secret for a while. But I imagine it has something to do with sacrifice.
The last big prophecy that there was the pact against the big three. That's like, hey, you can't have kids anymore.
Right. There was also a prophecy that Annabeth heard that she's like not allowed to tell Percy. So there's like a lot going on where Percy isn't really aware of how he fits into things.
That happens a lot in Greek tragedies where there's all these prophecies and people are kind of like, we can't tell the person that the prophecy belongs to because we're afraid what's going to happen, and possibly it inadvertently causes the thing to happen. It's the idea of the Oedipus effect.
Right. It's like That's So Raven. Knowing the future makes you destined to cause it to happen.
Yes and no, because I also like the idea in Back to the Future, like you can make the future what you want. It's not written entirely in stone.
Well, also, yeah, like the whole thing of the prophecies is like they're vague enough that you don't know exactly what they mean.
Well, usually you can interpret them once it's too late.
Exactly. I mean, it's like, you know, in the last book, fail to save what matters most in the end, and it's like, it's sort of like a play on words because it's Percy's mom saving herself. Like, it sounds like a negative thing, but it's not as negative as you think. Like, that kind of thing. Like, words have a double meaning to them in oracles.
And that's the great thing about prophecies, is there's so many different ways to interpret them that sometimes they might be like a negative connotation, except they might be positive, or they might actually
or vice versa
be something that might actually help them in a way, which, you know, I like that about Percy Jackson because we get these prophecies, except there's the parts of Percy Jackson where it's like they strictly have to follow the prophecies, like in the first book. It's like Percy's like really freaking out about the whole prophecy rather than like letting, you know, destiny guide him to like where he wants to go.
So yeah, then he sends them off with one of his bear friends, but he like keeps the other one to watch after Kronos or something. I don't really...
Spooky Casket Man?
Yeah, one of the bears. So they're not even bears, they're like bear humans. They're like horrifying.
So like when I hear like human bear hybrid, I just imagine like a gigantic lumberjack, kind of like in Gravity Falls with Wendy's dad.
Oh yeah, that's a good example actually. Yeah, but I feel like I picture them way more like, you know, the werewolf in Harry Potter that's like, he has like this grotesque, like Lupin. He looks like almost human also, like not quite hairy enough to be an animal, but like has like these sort of spindly human-like features, but is also kind of an animal. That's kind of what I'm picturing with the bear humans. Like they're like these horrifying like creatures that are a combination, like they're kind of like patchy and they're like not as hairy as a bear, so it's, yeah, they're not, you know, like cute teddy bears. They're just like these creepy, you know, creatures. Yeah, I feel like I could probably like draw it or something and it would be like so gross and creepy. Like, you know, you keep saying that they're bears and like I just picture like sort of the whimsical country bears, like, you know, or like Baloo, like someone who's just like jovial and like a fuzzy little teddy bear. But like what's creepy is like they're not even bears, they're like human also, or I guess God, I don't know, it's gross.
I feel like they're just like, they look a lot like Grizzly Adams, almost like they're just gigantic meat people with like hair all over
just
them.
Like a nightmare. Really gross. I wonder how they look in the movie. Probably bad because everything looks bad.
They probably actually like look like bears. They probably have like, they're like the top half is bear and then the bottom half is like they wear like skinny jeans or something.
Yeah, just a man with like a bear head.
Like always when I think of, this is just me in D&D, but the most horrifying thing are two things: a bugbear and an owl bear. Have you ever seen either of those things, B? And listeners, look them up. They are horrifying creatures in D&D.
Yeah, I think I have actually, because isn't there a bugbear in Taz? Oh, they're very bad. I don't know if I've ever actually looked at a picture of them.
The more we think about this, the more of like a disaster like these creatures are. Like, you can't really fathom them. It's almost like a Lovecraftian horror, like how you perceive them, you just go mad by thinking about. But Percy and the gang, they start going to the deck of the ship because they're going to be eaten by like a Drakon.
Yeah, which is another creature that we find out about in this chapter, which is a dragon person? Hold on, wait, they describe it.
It's like Falcor.
Like a luck dragon. Now, can you imagine, like, Falcor the luck dragon eating a person? Like, I feel like that'd be so much creepier than an actual dragon.
Well, I mean, if they ever like remake the Never-Ending Story, of course that's gonna happen in the Gritty reboot.
The gritty reboot, Falcor just devours people. Oh my goodness. So anyway, hold on, I need to get my bear people straight. So Aureus is the one who gets sent to throw them to the Drakon, and Agrius is the one who, like, stays behind to... I don't exactly know. Like, they don't really justify why it's something. He, like, kind of, like, looks over at Kronos, and he seems... Or, like, Luke looks concerned about something or other, and he's like, oh, you gotta stay behind. It works plot-wise, because now they can escape, because they make a point of saying that Tyson couldn't take on 2 of the bears, but he could maybe take on 1. So it's like, as we walk down the corridor, with Aureus's javelin poking me in the back, I thought about what Luke had said, that the bear twins together were a match for Tyson's strength, but maybe separately, ...
Yeah, which is a great thing, again, that's very, like, situational, not even, like, comedy, but just, like, a plot where it's, hey, they've already established that Tyson's a very strong dude. And he could probably take on one of them. And he could probably take on both of them. But you have, like, the situation now where they've split up, and now Tyson, like, clobbers the dude, like, 30 feet into the air and into the pool. Which my favorite line of this is the creepy, like, twins, or the family is like, we are not having fun.
Yeah, we are not having a blast in the pool. I love, like, their weird phrases. Oh, goodness.
Like, how would you say it would be, like, creepy, like, The Shining creepy? Like, unison? Hello there, father. Hello there, mother.
Yeah, they all, like, kind of just speak in these weird platitudes. I thought it was interesting that they did notice that they weren't having fun, though, so because they do say we are not having a blast in the pool. So they kind of understand their surroundings a little bit. It's a little bit confusing.
Or maybe they've been in the pool so long that they're actually, like, pruning.
Yeah, and it's good that they got splashed at the pool then, because now that they won't wrinkle up.
So Percy, Annabeth, and Tyson run to the front of the ship, like, very, like, Titanic-esque moment, and they try to find the nearest lifeboat.
Oh god, the lifeboat thing is very stressful. Yeah, it's a good thing that he has water powers, doesn't it? Yeah, so they fight off the bear pretty easily, but then there's, like, a whole bunch of other monsters who kind of try to pursue them. There's, like, monsters, security men, tourists, waiters.
And then we also have the Lestrygonians are back.
Yeah, with the archers with their, like, giant bows. And then they're, like, in the safety boat or whatever, in the escape boat, and they can't figure out how to lower it, which is kind of a problem.
So Percy does the most Percy thing ever and just cuts all the ropes.
Yeah, I mean, like, as far as a risk to take, if you're, like, the son of Poseidon, I guess this isn't that much of a risk. Like, oh, okay, they free fell towards the ocean, but, like, you know.
Yeah, but there's, like, a miscalculation here, because Tyson and Percy are sons of Poseidon, except Annabeth is the daughter of Athena, which is just brain power. So Percy and Tyson will survive no problem in the water.
Yeah, maybe he's like, oh, well, Annabeth, we didn't have her in the deal. I don't think that Poseidon is that terrible, though. I think he would try to help all of them, but...
Remember, Athena and Poseidon are rivals.
Right, that is true.
So really, it's just a gigantic disaster waiting to happen, because the chapter ends with them scream falling.
Yeah. I think it's probably going to be fine, because, like, I don't know, a wave is probably going to rise up, or, like, the sea ponies are going to come back and save them. I feel like something like that happens.
Or Annabeth constructs a drag chute.
Yeah, something like that will happen, I imagine. Yeah, this is, like, a very action-packed chapter. I feel like we also get, like, a whole lot of, like, exposition about, like, what's happening with, like, Luke's plan. Like, it's kind of a lot, actually. Even though it's, like, not a very long chapter, we get a lot of information.
Yeah, this is what I like to call, like, an info dump chapter, just because of the reasons of, hey, we get to explain Luke's plan. We now have confirmation that he poisoned the tree. Oh, by the way, now we know how Kronos is kind of coming back through this creepy sarcophagus. And also, Percy, Annabeth, and Tyson are going to die, or they're going to live, because it's a great cliffhanger chapter, because, again, plunging to their death, possibly, question mark.
Probably not. I imagine not. That would be a very short series, wouldn't it? It was like, and then Percy died.
Percy's like, hey, I'm just hanging underwater. Hey, Annabeth, there's no time to be sleeping. Oh.
Yeah, all the rest of the chapters are just like blank pages.
It's all pictures of like Rick Riordan doing finger guns to you.
Yeah, so I imagine that nothing bad happens. I mean, something maybe dramatic happens, but I don't think they're going to get seriously hurt because, like, they got the power of water on their side.
Hey, B, before you finish that sentence, what's the name of the next chapter?
We hitch a ride with dead Confederates. What the heck does that mean?
What do you think that means, B?
I have no idea what that means. Like Confederate soldiers? Or like of a different confederacy? Like I have a lot of questions about what's gonna happen next chapter. I mean, I know like the general plot, just like I have an idea that they're probably gonna like eventually end up in the Bermuda Triangle and they're gonna eventually try to find Grover and they're gonna eventually try to get the Golden Fleece. Like all that stuff is like pretty well laid out, but the details of how they're gonna get there, I'm a little fuzzy on.
Well, obviously by boat.
Yeah, probably, or something like that. I really hope that the little rainbow, is that the name of the of the hippocampus that or hippocampi that Tyson names? I hope that Rainbow makes another appearance. That's kind of all I can hope for. Other than that, I don't know.
So you want a Fish Horse movie with Tyson and Rainbow just hanging out and being like bros?
Yes, I do. Like Free Willy.
We're going back to like Neverending Story and how you just kind of want like Tyson to fly on Rainbow's back.
Exactly, it would be adorable.
Yeah, I'm not going to tell you any good things or bad things or anything in between.
Oh, what if something bad happens to Rainbow? No, never mind. I want Rainbow to not come back to the story, because that would be so sad. I don't want anything bad to happen to Rainbow. Much like Tyson immediately formed a bond with this fictional character. Anyway.
You're like, I connect on this horse on a spiritual level. Like, I needed to have this hippocampus in my life, or hippocampi.
Yeah, that's a singular, right? Hippocampi, whatever. Anyway, I have no idea what the name of the next chapter means. I'm completely befuddled.
So, B, what do you think's going to happen next chapter?
I have no idea. I don't, like, I guess they're not going to die when they free fall towards the ocean. Like, they're probably going to be okay. But other than that, I don't know. They need some sort of form of transportation to, like, get to the Bermuda Triangle, aka the Sea of Monsters.
Well, they're going to hitch a ride with some dead Confederates. We'll figure that out next chapter, won't we, B?
I'm trying to think, like, a ghost ship, but then also, like, why would Confederates be on a boat? Like, I have a lot of questions about what that means.
And hopefully they're answered next chapter, B.
Yeah, I don't know. Other than that, I don't really have any specific guesses as to what's going to happen. I don't think they're going to run into Luke for a little while, because they already just had, like, an altercation with him, and he's, like, one of the main antagonists. So I think they'll probably run into him later, but not soon.
Normally how, like, young adult stories are, like, structured, or most basic, like, hero versus villain plots is they usually have, like, they meet the villain in the beginning of the movie, and then they meet them near the end or towards the denouement.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So I feel like they're not going to see Luke for a while.
Unless it's like Mad Max Fury Road, where the entire thing is the chase.
Yeah, and I don't think that they're going to see... God, I don't know if Kronos is going to be involved in this book, or if he's going to make an appearance, like, next book or something, if he's actually going to be revived the way Luke intends. Who knows what's going to happen with that.
So, B, did we get any messages this week?
Yeah, we got an email titled Hermes and His Snakes, which is exciting. It says, "Hi, it's N. Jackson 2.0. So Hermes has his staff. It has two snakes. They're named George and Martha. Rick Riordan might have chosen that because George Washington and Martha Washington were the first president and first lady of the United States. My theory is that the name changes as different countries become more powerful and important people are chosen for the snakes' names, and they fight like a married couple. So thank you for reading this."
Yeah, I think that might also be, like, that's theory number, 45?
Yeah. I think it's the Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf thing, because they're like, George and Martha are known as like an infamous bickering married couple.
So, Rick Riordan, please tell us this question. You can email us at radiocampaplet@gmail.com.
Answer my question. So it could be either of those.
Like, if we ever, like, end up getting Rick Riordan for our show, that's going to be a question we're going to ask him. And you know what? It'll be the most funniest response ever. Like, wait, you guys overthought this?
I don't know. George and Martha was also the name of a TV show about two hippos that loved each other. So I don't know if it's a reference to that. Who knows?
I mean, Rick Riordan is a man in his golden years right now. I mean, that's also a possibility. I actually kind of like now switching more towards the George and Martha Washington.
Yeah, you think so?
So Rick Riordan, please message us.
We don't know the answer. We're just taking guesses, but that's my guess. It's kind of a weird reference to make in a kid's book about ancient Greece, but you know.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, with George and Martha Washington, a lot of their like aesthetic was based off of Greek culture, as well as like the United States.
Oh, maybe there's a lot of justification for either of these theories. So I'm interested to know if they're, or like imagine how wild would it be if he just picked those names randomly. That'd be hilarious.
Yeah, and it's like I just imagine what we're doing right now is we're like in lab coats and like dissecting this like very like clinically, like giving all these results. I just thought of two cool names. Rick Riordan thinks, oh yeah, George and Martha. Or maybe those were his grandparents' names, and he just thought of the first two things that popped into his brain.
Yeah. They're pretty basic names now that I think about it, but you know.
Martha, why did you say that name? So we got a beautiful email from Kaylee. Hey guys, it's Kaylee, and I'm listening to the show right now. Wow, how is she listening to our show right now, B? Is she like spying on us?
Right now, right this second. She's listening to this episode, somehow.
Well, if she's listening to this episode right now, I mean, I guess she's listening to it right now when this is released. Oh my god, are we getting so, like, metaphysical right now?
Oh, this is very meta. This is hurting my brain. Okay.
I found the podcast a while back because I was on a summer trip to Mexico visiting family and I needed a time filler before stumbling on this beautiful of a thing. Since I have the /shortest attention span, I wasn't sure how to feel about listening to a 60-minute long episode, and the second I listened to your first episode, I was hooked. You guys analyze this series in such a way that actually makes me want to reread the whole series, and the banter between you two is so real, it reminds me of me and my sister. It's so hard for me to believe that you two haven't met in real life yet.
It's true.
Percy Jackson was there during a weird part of my life. If I'm being honest, I used it as a way to find friends and then did it again when I changed school in 8th grade. It gave me my first actual Mexican and Latina main characters I ever read in a YA series. I'll be in advisory or in class with free time, and me and my 4 friends I introduced to the show all sync up an episode, and by that I mean 2 of us start an episode at the same time and share an earbud with the person on our right.
Aw.
So we can listen and discuss it at the same time. That is so rad.
Aw, that's so precious.
Like, that made me, like, almost, like, I'm not even going to lie about this, I'll be frank. Like, some tears, like, kind of, like, welted up into me a little bit.
Just a couple, a little misty in here.
V, I'm not crying, I just have an allergic reaction to how beautiful this is.
Yeah, I've just got a book in my eye.
This dust in this book is making me teary. When I first reread the series as a 12 to 13-year-old, I hated it because it was just so immature in my mind. But I forced myself to read it again so I could continue on to read the newest series, Heroes of Olympus. But listening to your show, I now realize what Rick Riordan was trying to teach and convey to me as a kid, and this is how much of it I have absorbed. I listened to the Percy Jackson musical recently because I have a huge love for musical theater, and I understand what you said, Zach, when you said you'd rather watch it live. I can't wait for you guys to do an episode or 2 about it, if you ever do it. I do believe that I'll be listening to this until you guys decide to end the show or run out of things to talk about, which I doubt, considering Rick Riordan comes out with a book every year. This podcast is amazing, and I love everything about it. The odd tangents about Harry Potter or horsing around the original Disney Channel original movie. Speaking of horsing around, I got bored and drew the most cursed thing I'd ever drawn. I hope you enjoy it. Cuddle your respective pets for me and stay mortal. From Kaylee.
Oh, that was such a nice message. And then added onto it, like, the best fan art. Like,
B, do you want to explain this? Because I just did, like, a windful.
So it's a poster for our beautiful brainchild horsing around the Disney Channel original movie about a man who is also a horse.
Oh, do you have to read the tagline?
Starring a centaur, a small girl, a drunk gay dad, coming 2030.
Like, my favorite thing about this poster, it says Horsing Around on the top by Disney, but in the middle of it, in, like, silhouette, there's a centaur that's, like, in shadow, and it's, like, a really buff centaur that's, like, looking longingly out into, most likely there'd be a sun in this poster.
But just like the little speech bubble that says nay is really good.
Like, how would you say that would be like, nay?
Nay.
Or would it be like, nay? Like something like really like manly.
I think it would be like a very, like a ponderous whisper, like nay.
Like you kind of think of it, and then all of a sudden, like George Michael, Careless Whisper starts playing.
Exactly.
I love this. Thank you so much, Kaylee. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, what a great message and piece of fan art. It truly transcends the form.
Like, there's no like words to truly describe how much we appreciate our fans. Like, I wake up every morning and be like, oh my god, people send us messages, and they like, Kaylee took the time to like write this huge, wonderfully beautiful email that I'm actually, to be honest, Kaylee, I'm probably going to print this out and put it on my wall.
Wait, print out the email or print out the horsing around poster?
Both. And I'm going to get it framed.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. If I was allowed to put stuff up on the walls in my apartment, I would definitely put the horsing around poster up on there.
Oh yeah, I'd love to get that as like an actual poster now.
Yeah, that would be great.
So we have one more email that says, Godly Parentage. This is from Evan. Hello, I took the Godly Parentage test, and I am a son of Athena. Thank you for reading my emails. Thank you, Evan, for sending us that email.
I forget what I got when I took that quiz. I like immediately forgot.
We are all Athena.
Yeah, I think we're all Athena. But I didn't actually get that when I took the quiz. It was like something else. Yeah, I don't even remember. I have to like listen back to that episode and remember what I got.
People are like, what? You guys don't remember your show?
No.
I can barely remember what I had for breakfast.
No, I don't remember anything.
I'm sure we're going to get like emails of like, it was Apollo.
Yeah, I could just listen back. It's fine. We have it recorded for posterity.
So we got 2 new iTunes reviews. The first one says, reliving the story again. This says it crashes. I love listening to this podcast and hearing the story of Percy Jackson.
What? Wait, what?
My app just crashed.
Oh no.
B, you want to know how ironic this is? The guy's name is this guy that says it crashes.
And then it crashed your app. Oh no, he cursed you.
Yeah, my app just crashed.
That's really funny.
Oh my god, that's that's staying in.
We've been cursed.
When I haven't read it in so long, I hope they continue with this podcast. Thank you, person that's crashed my app on my phone.
Yeah, with your spooky magics.
Yeah, he sent his spooky magics at us. So we got one more. It says, don't watch the second PJO movie. This is from Hollis 40 from 3.
I think we knew that.
Hey, Zack and B, I really enjoyed the pod. I think you do a great job as hosts and bring really unique perspectives to a series that means a lot to me. All that being said, isn't it why I'm writing this email? I know you are planning on watching the second movie after the books, and I wanted to let you know that the movie actually reveals the big prophecy nearly verbatim. So the one we kind of talked about in our chapter. I don't know what else it reveals because I literally stopped watching it after I saw it. But I thought I should let you know because I think you would consider potential spoilers of the series. You might find it in the second movie. Because having B read the books not knowing what happens next is my favorite dynamic. Anyways, thank you for reading this whole thing. Peace out, Chris.
Weren't we planning on watching it after this book anyway, though?
We'd have to decide that now if that's a huge spoiler thing.
So does it spoil books other than the second book?
Yes.
Oh.
If it's what I'm thinking, because I've never seen the Sea Monsters movie, that means now, Chris, I have to actually go and actually watch that movie.
You have to go and watch it and see what it's about.
Yes, I have to screen it.
Oh no, I'm so sorry, Zach.
This is a curse that has now been put onto me because I have to make sure for the integrity of our show that I watch this movie before I watch it with B so I can cry myself to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, being forced to watch that movie even once is pretty bad, so.
B, if the option was to go to prison or rewatch that movie again, I think prison sounds like a lovely place. There's probably a prison library. I can read Percy Jackson.
I'm so mad that I actually spent money on iTunes to watch the first one. I was actually used my iTunes gift card to watch that, and
I'm so sorry, B.
I could have, spent money on so many better things than that.
And we're going to get to it. And you know what? I can't wait to release the Kraken. That's the last Percy Jackson movie there is.
Yeah, and then we never have to worry about it again.
The great thing is probably the second we finish this episode, we're going to get an email that says, oh, by the way, they've put into development a Percy Jackson live action series.
Probably. We're probably going to get that. One of these days, I think it's going to happen.
And then we're going to get the music from Curb Your Enthusiasm starts playing.
Yeah. I mean, it could be good. Who knows if they actually, dedicate some time to making it good.
And hey, there are some dashing podcasters that would love a cameo in that movies or TV show or whatever it is. We're totally fine.
Put me in an orange t-shirt. I can look like a half-blood.
Yes. Well, they'll age us down and they can age us up. Probably by the time that gets finished, we can be like parents of demigods.
Okay, people still think I'm like a child, so I think not much special effects would be involved in trying to make me look like a young camper.
One of these days we'll make an episode where we should do how we would actually produce a series and pitch it.
Oh, of Percy Jackson? Oh, I don't know.
That would be a fun thing to think about. But I think that's pretty much it for this episode. We've talked about everything. We've read so many wonderful emails.
We've talked about everything under the sun.
Where can they find you, B?
You can find me on Tumblr at twinpoetry.tumblr.com, and you can find me on Twitter at bkellygorman.
And if you want to find me on Twitter, you can find me at Suda41, that's SUDA41. And if you want to follow our show on Twitter, it's at halfblood_radio. If you want to email our show, you can email us at radiocamphalfblood@gmail.com, and we read all of our emails that we get. We love that. So send us anything you want, even if it's recipes for ambrosia or nectar.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Other than that, you can find us on major places such as Patreon, Twitter, Tumblr, and we also have our website. Go to www.ghoulishfancies.com, and you can get some t-shirts. We're going to try to represent more. We'd love to see you guys in some Radio Camp Half-Blood t-shirts.
Rep them t-shirts. I feel like I'm just going to go ahead and buy my own t-shirts as promos. Just walk around and be like, hey, have you heard? I do a podcast.
I don't know what the policy of that is. You wrap your own show, but I don't even care. Or you know what we should do, B? We should just buy 2 gigantic t-shirt guns and walk around Comic-Con shooting our t-shirts into the crowds of people.
People love free t-shirts even if they don't give a crap about what's on them.
No, they'll be like, oh my god, free stuff, and then we get free publicity. Or we do a Percy Jackson meetup and then we shoot them out of the t-shirt guns.
All right, let's do Price is Right. How much do you think a t-shirt gun costs?
Here's the Gordian knot here, B. I'm going to use the Greek saying now. How much is it going to cost retail, or how much is it going to cost for me to make one? Because all it is just a compressed air gun. Doesn't cost that much. I'm going to say a professional one is going to run us about $500 to $1,000.
That's a pretty good guess. On Amazon, the original t-shirt launcher is going for $699.00, so almost $700.
We'll put that right next to Elon Musk's flamethrower.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. It's $699 for a t-shirt launcher? That seems like a lot.
So if anyone wants to gift us a t-shirt launcher, we'd love that.
Yeah, so we could shoot our t-shirts and people.
Well, I think that kind of ends the show. I'm Zach.
Yeah, I'm B.
And keep staying mortal. Bye.
Bye, guys.